Good evening, everyone. Thank you for taking time out. Um, the discussion topic that we have is why Hollywood matters. We have three esteemed guests over here. I will introduce them. But I would like to start by saying that I believe, and I think a lot of people in the room believe, that Hollywood does matter. What we want to discuss is how have things changed between 2019 and now, to so-called pre-pandemic, post-pandemic. What is relevant from the Hindi-speaking audience? What is relevant from Southern Indian markets? Because everybody seems to be discussing today South is different and North is different. We'll get into those details. Since I started engaging and working on the entertainment industry, both earlier as a banker and then as an industry professional, I'm talking of 2002, 2001 to 2003. At that time, Hollywood in India used to contribute about 5% of overall film business. Over the years, and we'll get into the details when and what has changed in the last 5-7 years, that 5% gradually went up to more than 15%, I think, except for 2024, which I think we will discuss. Is it an anomaly or is it a sign of things to come? But we'll get into that during this session. So we have today Sanjay with us. He handles marketing for the Universal Pictures, and he will tell us more about what he has been doing so far. Then we have Shoni. Shoni is General Manager and Head of Sony Pictures Releasing. And we have George, who handles marketing at Warner Brothers for all the Warner Brothers titles. So I would request if all of you can tell a little bit about your background, and then we'll start into the topic. So we can start with George. Yeah.
Hi, I'm George. I head the marketing for Warner Brothers Pictures in India. Been in the game for a really long time and have proudly led campaigns for Harry Potter films, for the Dark Knight series, for quite a few Christopher Nolan films like Interstellar, Inception. Yeah.
Yeah, hi, as Sunir said, my name is Shawnee, and as my name kind of indicates, I work for Sony Pictures. I head the studio business, and I've been in this industry since now 22 years. 15 or 16 years of that has been handling Hollywood and a little bit of local films. I've, like George spoke about Harry Potter, I have handled Spider-Man at Sony, and I've handled Avatar, Deadpool at Fox. So, yep, good to be here.
Yeah, myself Sanjay Narayanan Pisharudi. So I work with the Warner Brothers Pictures, but I handle exclusively the Universal portfolio, where I had marketing. I've been in this industry like the esteemed gentleman before me, 25 plus years. I've worked in the past with Warner Brothers. I've worked with Disney. I've worked with Sony in home entertainment. I've worked with Lionsgate, and I've done some independent consulting as well. So in terms of, and I've also got to at the same time work across the board on bigger films like Oppenheimer to, and Fast and Furious and Jurassic to really smaller films like, or smaller or, artsy films, you can say, like Brutalist and Anora. So that's my introduction. Thank you.
So 2002, roughly, we were at 5% in terms of Hollywood grosses for India, and it went gradually up to about 15-16% in 2018-19, which we will refer to as the pre-pandemic period. So from that 15-16%, last year it has come down quite a lot to sub 10%. My question to all of you is it a larger phenomena only because of the WGA strike in 2023 and afterwards, which led to lower output, or is there more into it?
Yeah, so I'll just start off.
Also, a related question when you answer is that how much has your respective business for a Universal or for a Warner or for a Sony gone down by? If overall market has come down from 15-16 to sub 10, Is it a broader trend or there have been outliers?
So, like you rightly said, I think pre-COVID, 2019 was a wonderful year for the industry. We had right from Avengers to Spider-Man to some of the biggies, which had happened. And before the strikes happened in 2023, I think COVID hit us, in a very bad way, as I'm sure everyone experienced in the room. So that started off, what was a need for the entire industry, for all the studios to rethink the strategy as to what are the kind of films which we should make, because they lost like about 2 years out there. Then the actor strike happened. Before the before the writer strike, there was actor strike. So there were a dual strike. So about 4 to 5 years, the industry had to just sit back, think about the strategy as to what they need to do, because the films were not working. Studios didn't know, should we come theatrical first? Should we do streaming? Should we do parallel? Should we do both? So a lot of time was spent there. I think now, like you rightly pointed out, I think 2023 was also not great. 2024 was also okay. But now I think that period is done. Studios have come back on track. I speak for most of us here, is that they have come back on track. They know what are the kind of, and I'm not saying that they have absolutely got it, obviously. But I think from where we were probably 3 years ago to where we are now, I think there's been a big, big jump. We know the kind of films which audiences are liking, which audiences want, what are the kind of franchises which they want to see, and in what way. It's just not enough to make a sequel. It has to be done in the way which audiences want and something new. So I think somewhere they have been able to kind of crack that code, and that's why we see, the kind of lineup which I'm sure we're going to talk about, which we're going to see in 2025 and 26. It's going to be phenomenal, and I would say that it's going to be better than 2019, which was a record year for Hollywood. It had touched almost 1,500 crores, which was a big, big year for Hollywood at that year. So this year is looking very promising, and I think next year is going to be even better.
But does, when it comes down from 1,500 to let's say 1,000, does the same percentage comes down for your respective studios?
So basically for every studio, it depends on the slate. Like for Sony, the slate includes a big film called Spider-Man. So whenever Spider-Man comes in whichever year, whether it's a pandemic year or a non-pandemic year, our ratio, our share goes up by a lot. So it's very slate dependent as to which film is for that. Or if you have a Jumanji year, again, that becomes big. And similarly I'm sure for Warner and Universal also, it's a very title dependent year. But in terms of ratio, I would also like to add that last year obviously was bad for Hollywood, but it was also bad for Bollywood. For the local films, Telugu had a wonderful year. We know that how, there was a couple of films which really broke. One, everyone must have watched, is Pushpa. So 2 films just changed the entire ratio for most of the other industries. So Hollywood, if it came down to 8, even Bollywood took a big beating. It came down from an average of 40%, it came down to about 30%. If you remove the Hindi dub version of Pushpa and Kalki, so that way it was different. So Telugu was very, very big, and it overshadowed almost every other industry. So if you just compared Hollywood and Bollywood, I would say Hollywood still did pretty well, even last year, in a year which is not supposedly done well for us.
In fact, I'll just add from Warner Brothers. Last year, we had our biggest film ever, the highest grossing film for Warner Brothers ever, that released last year, which was Godzilla Kong. So despite it being not that great a year, that movie did phenomenally well for us. So.
Yeah, and to add to it, I think we all understand that the studio business is a very cyclical business. From studio to studio, some studios have a great year in terms of the product that they've planned and they put out. And in some years, it's not. And it's also, from a Universal perspective, we came off the biggest year ever for Universal in 2023, when we had Fast and Oppenheimer performing really outsized in India. But then when you're coming off such a big year, then you don't go to that, it's coming from a big peak. So those challenges are there. And I think what we all realize, and I think even the studios here have the same cyclical issues. You have a development cycle, and according to that production development cycle, there will be certain years when you will not be able to kind of put out product in time to, or consistently put out, product across that year to register the same level of market share. So from it's a cyclical business in that.
And there were 2 films actually, like you refer to the strike, the recent strike. There were 2 films very specifically for Warner Brothers, which had to be postponed and then redated. which was Dune Part 2 and Challengers. But then, like now the slate and the schedule is all stabilizing, so it's coming back to track.
So I had a question for later, but since you mentioned Challengers, how many screens did Challengers come up with in India?
It was, I think, if I remember right, it was approximately 250 to 300.
But considering that it was a younger demographic attracting film, it didn't do well here, it didn't do well enough, or because it came and then it went. Is there a science behind it?
In fact, I mean, like that's completely, it depends on the perspective. So it's the kind
No,
of,
I mean,
the
I
kind of
want-
film it is, you know, I mean, we were actually very happy with the performance of the film. You know, so a drama, but of course, I mean, like, it had Zendaya, but the kind of business that it did at the period that we released it in, we were actually happy.
Yeah. No, I understand. Sports drama usually have limited audiences. I was very happy to watch the film, so I have a vested interest. Over the past 3-4 years, there has been a marked differentiation in terms of the kind of films which people decide to go to theaters, or people are resistant not to go to theaters. A lot of mid-budget films, niche films, so-called niche films, not really art house, used to have a reasonable market before 2020. Of late, what has happened is, even people like us, or a lot of people in the audience, I don't think they are going to cinemas as often as they were going 5 years earlier. Maybe age has something to do with it, maybe our viewing habits have changed. And then everybody talks about, ये film तो streaming में आ जाएगी. So, a lot of people say that that has an impact in terms of the kind of films we want to go to theaters, which results in lower sort of cinema audiences. Is that true for Hollywood as well? And that's a question to all of you, because Warner makes, usually, they make these larger than life films which come to theaters. Sony has been a dark horse in the last 2-3 years. They've made films which have just clicked magnificently. Universal has been on a dream run, and they have an associate relationship with Blumhouse where people go and watch films in the US. Not so much, I think, in India. Blumhouse is not big here. But is that relevant in the larger scheme of things from a streaming perspective? Does it matter to you?
I think I'll give my opinion first and then...
Or let me rephrase the question. There is a 56-day and there is a 28-day in South which can go down to 14 days. And we have someone here in the audience who doesn't want less than 56. We will involve him in question answer later. But does it really matter?
Sorry, does the audience know that?
Yeah, there is Kamal who heads PVR Inox, the cinema business. So, you know, we are going to involve him in Q&A so that he doesn't run away, as he has been threatening to. So, does streaming matter?
Okay, so I'll kind of, you know, let's kind of, you know, go back to probably 2019, which was pre-pandemic, and see that the data shows that the number of people that went in the record year of 2019, that number has gone down. My belief, this is my opinion, is we will inch back there. We are not yet there. We will inch back there. 2023 was good. 2024 went down a bit. Pandemic was a huge disruptor. Those couple of years is when streaming kind of became really, really big. Everybody was at home, and that was probably the only real entertainment option as well as consuming content was concerned. However, if you see how some films have done, you know, even in Bollywood or even Hollywood, like I said, our highest grossing film ever has come post-pandemic. I mean, like, you see the numbers of, you know, Pushpa 2 or 3 or, you know, I mean, like, the movies can do incredible numbers. So if we have the right content, then the audiences will come. Very specifically to your question about streaming, I think it matters, and I feel that when movies are made, there should be periods or windows given to each part of the business, which would be theatrical, which would be PVOD, TVOD, SVOD, all of that. So that the movie has, you can earn your revenues throughout its life, and so you don't kind of cannibalize any part of the business. So that's my opinion. Of course, it matters, and I think as an industry, we need to collectively kind of decide on what the right window is, for film and cinemas, and then the subsequent.
Yeah, so my perspective is that, to the larger question that has it impacted? Yes, it has impacted. But I feel, and again, like George, it's my personal opinion that I think it's impacted for the better. Because pre-COVID, during COVID, like George was saying, in those 2 years, there was a lot of streaming, a lot of great content which, all audiences were exposed to, which I feel is great for the industry. Because it made all the studios, whether Hollywood studios or local studios, to just relook, think, and work better. Because pre-COVID, good films were working. If there's a good film, people were ready to go to the theaters. But now, great works. Audiences have got greedy. They want great films. Pre-COVID, good marketing was enough. But now people want great marketing. Audiences want to be part of the marketing, just not being marketed to. They want to be part of the entire thing. And again, pre-COVID, I know Kamal is there, but a Friday, if you get an opening on Friday, it was good enough. But now, if the opening is there, but if the report is not there on a Friday morning show, it's gone. So that's the challenge. So as filmmakers, whether in Hollywood or in Bollywood, it's become a very challenging thing, and that has brought the best in everyone, I would feel, where they are trying to strive that what are the kind of films where people would want to step out, Because like I said, I think we have to accept, and we all have accepted, there's some great content on streaming, but there are a lot of great films for which people are ready to step out. Like George was saying, whether it's his film or it's Oppenheimer or it's Spider-Man, people have stepped out of the, but there are some kind of films which people will step out, the obvious ones are the larger than life, like Spider-Man, Avengers, they will step out. But there are also a lot of films which becomes like where people want to know before the entire world, it's called probably a FOMO effect, where there is something in that which I want to talk to my friends about, so those kind of films will again work. Then there are, I think what theater does, which streaming can never do, is, making like a cultural imperative, making like a phenomenon, what again Warner and Universal did in 2023 with Barbenheimer. I think that was a great thing. We will never hear about something like that in streaming, where even if I'm not a Barbie fan, even if I'm not wanting to watch Oppenheimer, I would still go to the theater, because that's what the world is talking about. I think that's what theater does. Few of the genres which probably would have got impacted are like drama, probably thrillers, which people might wait for, but no, not for the others. And again, what George hit upon a very interesting point, was like how Hollywood as studios, what we do is we play a cinematic relay race. It's like, okay, theater is the first part of it. After 3 months or whatever the window is, then it goes to a TVOD, and I'm hoping that people are aware with those. After that, it goes to streaming, and after that, it goes to satellite. So it's a game which is played over 8 months, and that's so important, and that's how I think Hollywood has such a good success rate, The ratio is much better because everyone is doing this all studios are doing it. Obviously, during COVID, there was a little bit of aberration here and there. But now it's all come back, and everyone does believe in theatrical first, which is so important for the industry.
Yeah, and from the I completely endorse both George and Shawnee's point of view, especially with regards to consumer habits having taken a change due to whatever the environmental factors around the pandemic. I'm definitely sure that they will come back. They will take time. Consumer habits take time to change once set in. Also believe it's a generational thing. So there is a certain generation that grew up during COVID, and that's actually kind of now a big part of that, the consumers who are currently going to the cinemas. For them to kind of change their habits or their how they consume content is going to take time. But having said that, as a studio, I think each of our studios, not where it's the reality is that for now it seems that the bigger films, the bigger spectacle films seem to be working in cinema. But I think all the studios recognize that it can't be just that. It has to be a mix and a variety, and it's like a buffet. It's you have where you get to sample all kinds of content. It might be big, it might be small, it might be big. It might be spectacle films, and some of, like for Universal, for example, we have a specialty label called Focus Features, which only concentrates on specialty content, and we've never lost focus of that. We do release, or we try to attempt to release almost all those focus features. Just like I believe that the local content in Hindi and regional films also has to be a diverse slate. It can't just be consisting of blockbusters. You can't run 52 weeks of blockbusters. I also believe, and this is something that I kind of after the COVID, I've interacted with multitudes of youngsters. I have seen that even in Indian audiences, a lot of the youngsters today are opening up to different forms of cinema. The very same impact of an OTT, where they saw all kinds of content from the world, has opened their eyes to different forms of content, to different quality of content, and this whole segment will continue to grow over time. People have to be mindful of that. The people, when they've watched all kinds of content, their ability to judge content also has been affected accordingly, and that's what is reflecting. People are mindful of how a film is also. So earlier the opening would guarantee a certain kind of a level of performance. Today that opening does not guarantee it, because people are waiting for what the word of mouth on the film is, what the general reviews reports are, and that's kind of impacting. As I say, I always believe the consumer is much more smarter than a lot of people like to believe.
Yeah, just to add to that, and to be honest, I feel like to what Sanjay was saying, I don't think it's going to happen. I think it's already happened. It's just that the big is becoming bigger. So earlier if a film would do 100 crores, which means people have like really appreciated the film. Now it's going to do 200, 300 crores because so many more number of people are going to come in. It's just that this small to mid-level films are somewhere people are a bit kind of confused. Should we wait or should we not wait? But again, if the buzz for that film is enough, if people are talking great things about the film, nobody's going to wait. People are coming to the theaters, and we all as studios, we are seeing that happening, again and again. And I think somebody had said that, streaming is where you like to chill, and theaters is where you get the actual thrill. So I really believe in that if you just want to have chill and have a good time, and you go to streaming. But if you really want to be part of the excitement, I think there's nothing like a community viewing. Go to a theater, sit in the dark room, and enjoy that film. Like we had Spider-Man No Way Home, which I'm sure everyone in the room has seen. So tell me what was the moment when Toby came on screen? That was like, you can't get that sitting in a home watching it with 4 of your family members. Or where Conjuring, Warner's film, in a horror film, when you're watching in a theater where everyone is giving that ooh and ah, it's a different experience. Same with the comedy. I think there is also a perception that comedy is not working, but it's all about community, and theatrical gives that to the audiences, which streaming can never kind of do. But again, it's down the line, it's important because it's a big revenue stream for all of us.
So the question is not about 4 films doing 500 crores. For a healthy film value chain, we need, in my personal opinion, you need 15 of those films which will do 50 crores. Because that is what makes the overall filmed entertainment business healthier. Exhibition is healthier. Producers are healthier, not figuratively, but I think the question was that there are the question is that there are these films which we decide, or which the audience groups decide कि यार अभी नहीं देखते हैं, ये तो आ जाएगी. I think the problem is there. So if habits have changed, it will take some time for the habits to change over. We need to make better films. I wanted to come to film marketing later, but since we've spoken about marketing and this is a marketing heavy sort of panel, for any Indian film or for any foreign film, the first thing which today becomes the decision driver on whether I'm going to go to cinema and watch the film or not is the trailer. I want to ask these marketing related questions in quick succession from a 2019 to 2025. In 2019, when we would do a Hindi film, and my background is from there, so I will talk more about Hindi films and we'll see how that extrapolates to Hollywood films. When you would do a marketing expense plan or a marketing spend plan, you would put X amount for print, including MediaNet, you will put Y amount for TV, you would put maybe 5 lakhs for digital, right? I think in 2025, we have seen a scenario where it is 5 crores on digital. And Ashish Saxena over here will throw some light on that in terms of how that numbers have changed. It is supposed to be participative. Has for Hollywood this media mix changed? If you were spending for a big film, let's take Godzilla, what would you be spending in 2019? What would you be spending in 2023? And how has that mix changed?
I think there's been a sea of difference, and what I can very easily say is that it's getting more and more and more digital. I mean, print, television, these are mediums which probably do not get as much attention from us as it used to.
Put some numbers, just for a perspective. So
Yeah,
take a typical example of 2019, take a typical example of 2025. You don't need to say Godzilla.
Yeah. So you're right. Actually, I mean, it started with 2%, 3% digital, 5%, and then 10%. But then that percentage has been growing. I mean, print used to be very important, once upon a time. Television was always important.
Would you say television and print were like 45% each?
Easily. I mean,
And-
it would be, I would say 30% would be print, about 40% would be television, and then outdoor and radio. And
So in 2025, what would that print and TV would be?
So it would primarily be digital. I mean, I would say out of all our media spends, I mean, 75% would be digital.
And
And
would-
that
and-
number again, depending on the film, depending on the genre.
No, that's fine.
Change, yeah.
But let's say you were spending 100% in 2019. Today, would you be spending 100% or you would be spending 120 or 70? Has the media spend come down for a big film because the TV and print has gone out?
No. We invest as much, or if not more, because in some films, I mean, the potential is actually increased, right? So we do spend more, but yeah, it all goes into digital. See, I mean, the audiences, where are they spending time? The youngsters, 18 to 35. That's your core audience which goes to cinemas. They are spending time on their phones. Simple. I mean, be it social media, be it playing games or chatting or whatever. They are not watching television like we used to. They don't pick up the newspaper like we used to, like we do. So where do we catch them? It's digital.
So same for Sony and Universal.
Yeah, just to add to what George was saying, I think more so for Hollywood, our audiences are definitely on digital. They are not there, they are not consuming TV unless it's live cricket, which obviously they do consume and where we do market to. But otherwise, they are not consuming print, they are not consuming a lot of television. And digital gives us the power to hyper target, hyper personalize the campaign. And this not only is for movies, I think it's across the world right now. It's fully a world where digital has become so prominent, where AI has become so prominent. So that's a phenomenon. I would not say it's restricted to marketing of Hollywood films, even marketing of Bollywood films, or marketing of any brand. So that's definitely happening. With regards to the ratio, I think probably 2019-18, that was a time when digital was going up. So probably what George said, around the same ratio or probably slightly higher had started around that same time. Now it's almost everything, at least at Sony, is almost everything is going unless there is a live cricket match happening. Then we do spend a little bit of that. I'm talking about just media right now. We do spend on live cricket because cricket is still huge in our country, but everything else goes on digital. Yeah.
Yeah, just to add to that, while that's kind of fundamentally shifted over time since the growth of it, it's been proportional to across every industry. The proportion has gone just in line with marketing of any other consumer goods. Proportion of digital has gone up. I'd just like to add two things here. That one is that earlier, what is a fundamental shift has happened, some say from 2019 or earlier, is that the campaigns used to be longer. And people even as they used to put out trailers and they used to start the promotion of of all the units used to start way earlier. Now it's become shorter. People have short attention times, and that's reflecting in the shorter campaigns. The other thing I think is which is important is today it's about moment marketing. So you have to find the moment that resonates with the audience and amplify that. So a lot of, even though we call it digital, but what we'd like to kind of seize upon is that moment marketing which will lend the film a certain leverage with audiences, which is what drive it. It's not just volume or the amount of messaging on a film will not carry weight with today's consumers. You need to have something in it that makes it click. The positioning has to be accepted. And you have to find an angle to resonate with today's viewers. And I think a lot of our efforts towards this is now towards this moment marketing. And lastly, I think one of the things is, although that the other mediums have gone down, some of the older mediums like an outdoor, still have some relevance in it today because of it creates a certain kind of impact. Or when you need to create an impact, or that particular IP has a way to be showcased in a certain way, I think outdoor still plays a part. At least for our studio, we do believe that.
So for older youth.
I just wanted to add on something to what Sanjay was saying about moment marketing and digital. Why is it so important is that one of the points which I was making earlier is now audiences don't want it to be marketed to. They become too smart, whether to smell what a film is or to smell that the marketeers are trying to sell the film to us. They reject that, They want to be part of the campaign. And if as marketeers we are able to, do that and make them the evangelists for our film, I think our job is done. That they are going on digital, they are talking about the film, okay, this is something which I'm looking forward to. And they, in their circle, just put that out. And that digital gives us the power to do that. If we are able to successfully do that, then we'll be able to kind of, get that in.
Is it fair to say 70% plus audiences of your respective films would be less than 30 years of age?
For sure, yeah.
So, 18 to 35 is like the big number.
35 actually.
So there are a bunch of 36-year-olds here, Kamal, Ashish, myself, all of you. How do you get us to watch a film? We read papers, we don't watch TV, we are on digital.
Aren't you on Facebook? Are you on Facebook?
Need basis, when I don't have anything else to do. I mean, the question...
So it's
a serious question in the sense that how do you tackle this 35 plus audience to come into the theaters?
Yeah, so it's probably not just, it's not just that we kind of, do stuff on digital and that's it, right? I mean, we would, there will be a lot of PR efforts which will kind of, get us coverage. There are, and then some of it is done locally, some of it is done for a global impact, which then travels here. It will hit the news. Exhibitors will play the trailers of our film. That itself is like a great marketing tool, right? I mean, like you've gone to kind of watch you're going to watch Superman and then you see the
So
trailer of Spider-Man. You're convinced.
No, here's the situation. Our cinema going frequency has gone down in the last 5-7 years, right? If I'm not in the theater to watch a film, I cannot see the trailer of the next film which is coming. I don't have an answer to this. It's a question coming out of all your responses. Everybody is focused on 18 to 35 or 15 to 35, right? People who are avid movie watchers or who were avid movie watchers as compared to the younger generation is people like us who are above 35. Are we doing, do you think we should be doing something to get them in? And at the studio level, obviously at cinema level, they will do whatever they have to do because it helps everyone. I'm just curious. It was not a planned
Yeah,
sort of
so
question.
I will try to kind of just continue to what George was saying. I think there are three things. One is, I think you're underestimating the number of people who are about 35 being on social media.
No.
A lot of people. And just to know, a lot of people, and like you rightly said, all of us here, we all are much above 35. We all are, so if not active on Instagram, we are definitely on YouTube. So there are places to catch even these set of audiences. Generally, any film in Hollywood, which we were talking about, are probably a superhero film where the ratio is 75% and above. If there's a specific film which is targeted at a 35 plus audiences, then obviously the campaign will differ, accordingly. That will change. Number three, if it's a movie which is targeted at a 35 minus, it's very rare that a 50-year-old will come on a Friday opening weekend. He will wait for the word of mouth. He will wait to read the review online or on a Times of India, or wait for his friends to talk about. So as marketers, I think it's very important for us to see what's the best place for our buck. So who's the guy who will come on a Friday morning to watch, and then he can go and talk about how good or bad the film is. So that's very, very important as marketers to kind of see that.
Yeah, and we've actually had a lot of content that's kind of sort of aged up, or that targets 35 plus, and we do find a way to. And what happens is digitally we can actually pinpoint audiences much more. When on other mediums, that's more spray and pray. We believe that given limited budgets, our efficiencies on digital are far higher when you're targeting niches. The other thing is that, let's face it, that all the research that shows, and cinema going research, I don't know we have anything specific to Hollywood, but cinema going starts dropping as you grow, as the age segments go up. It's a function of that the targeting is accordingly done. But having said that, a lot of the PR elements, a lot of what we do in terms of creating interest in special interest groups and all are targeted to older audiences. And that will continue to be the case with us.
Ticket to Paradise is a Warner film? No.
Universal.
Universal. We went to see that. We spent $1,500 per ticket. Somehow challenges.
That's a different debate, I think, about the pricing.
Sajay, say thank you.
No. I must have been watching a lot of stuff which made the algorithms target challenges towards me. I can assure you a lot of 50-year-olds would have gone and watched that film. So how is 2025 and 26 looking for, which are the big titles to look forward to? If you can say 3 each from your respective lineup in 2025 and 26 combined.
So the big one really for us would be Superman. So it's the start of the new set of films from DCU by James Gunn. Superman is obviously the OG superhero, and that's releasing in July. So that should be big. Then we have F1 starring Brad Pitt. That's releasing in the month of June. And if I have to say, third one would be the Conjuring Last Rites, which is again a very, very successful horror franchise. So these 3 films are coming up. We also have, I'm going to name a 4th, Final Destination, again very, very popular horror franchise. That's in May. 26 we have Supergirl releasing. and then which again, like since it's superhero genre and from DC, that should do well. We have Lee Cronin's Mummy releasing. That's going to be like a horror treatment on Mummy, so that should be an interesting film. We have Clayface. So Clayface is a DC villain. So a movie on a DC villain, Clayface. We also have a Tom Cruise film. Right now it's untitled, but yeah. So these would be 4 titles. Actually, I should also just since we talked about 2025, I think it's relevant to this discussion is we re-released Interstellar this year, and so. And the kind of business it has done.
How much has it done?
I think it's going to touch 28, 29, 30 or something. It's in.
And when it released in the first?
Just 10 years after. Oh,
Was it less than this?
Yeah, it was close. Okay. It was close, right? But the thing is, the incredible thing is, Interstellar re-release this year. We are in March. Is probably the highest grossing Hollywood film so far in 2025. So just think about it. It's a movie which released 10 years back. People have seen it, audiences have seen it. But they want to come and experience Interstellar again in an IMAX theater.
Okay.
So which any doubts about what a theatrical experience can be.
I don't think any one of us has any doubt.
I'm just saying, just for
Sony.
George has plugged a lot of Warner films with this. And also given the opportunity probably for Kamal to tell his team that it's just not Bollywood re-releases, but even Hollywood re-releases are looking exciting. Before I talk about Sony films, I think we can say, and I think we had a discussion before this, that 2025 is definitely going to be at least 40% about 2024. And 26 we all believe, and I know we have a lot of people, but it's going to be a record-breaking year. So it's going to be very, very exciting amongst all the studios. There are a couple of studios who are not there, but it's looking super exciting between the 2 years. For Sony per se, this year we have Karate Kid, which is coming in May, and this is post-Cobra Kai phenomenon, which happened on Netflix. So we are like super gung-ho about this film.
We have Jackie Chan still? No.
Yes, it has Jackie Chan. It has Jackie Chan, and it has the original cast of the 1984 Karate Kid, who's now quite popular in Cobra Kai, which is a series on Netflix. Then we have gone big on anime because of Crunchyroll. So we have probably the biggest anime film which is releasing, Demon Slayer, Infinity Castle, which is coming in, and we are thinking that it's going to break all records for anime films in India. And we end the year with Anaconda, which is coming back after a long, long time. And Anaconda, when it had released in India, was huge. 26 is looking more exciting for us. We have got the next Spider-Man after No Way Home, the next live-action Spider-Man, which I'm sure everyone is like really waiting for, as am I, as a fan of Spider-Man. And don't ask me if it has got the other 2 Spider-Mans returning. I have no idea. Then we have the Spider-Verse. Again, that was a big. Spider-Verse was the biggest animated film of all time in India. So we have got the next part of that, which is beyond the Spider-Verse. So we have that one. And of course, we have Jumanji in Christmas of 2026. Again, Jumanji is a very, very big franchise in India especially. So yeah, these are the 3 films. And I won't plug a 4th film like Warner did.
As far as Universal is concerned, this year is obviously we are releasing the live-action version of How to Train Your Dragon in June, and followed by our evergreen blockbuster franchise Jurassic World Rebirth. It's the brand new reimagining of the franchise in that sense, and headlined by Scarlett Johansson this time. So we've the Jurassic films have never ever failed to deliver in India. It's always been a very, very big phenomenon. And we are really excited about our 26 lineup, because we've got Odyssey. It's headlined by Odyssey, and one doesn't need to say anything more than that. We have the next untitled Steven Spielberg film, and this is Steven Spielberg returning to his roots as an action, adventure, big screen spectacle film. He wants to actually do this return to his roots. That's what he's told. So that's one thing that we were really anticipating and waiting for. We have 3 very big animation franchises. So we start off with Super Mario. We have the ever-loved, evergreen Shrek, green as in literally green, Shrek coming back. And we also have the next edition of the Minions. So it's an action-packed lineup next year from Universal. And we have the next Jordan Peele film as well coming up next year. So, and I'll stop here because there's even
That's
more.
more than 4.
There's more, but I'm stopping.
So,
Yeah, I'd just like to add that I know we don't have Disney and Paramount here, but obviously Mission Impossible is coming this year, which is going to be big. And Avengers is coming next year. So I think just to plug them in, they're not here, but yeah, the 2020, the bottom line is 25 and 26 is looking huge for Hollywood.
so for Hindi cinema,
Yes, and Avatar. Sorry, how could I miss that? Yeah, that's the
when
this
is
year.
that? Oh,
Yeah, Avatar is going to be the biggest Hollywood, and probably even Bollywood, if maybe not war, but if you put that aside, it's going to be the biggest for years this year.
so 2026, I believe, is going to be the biggest year for Hindi cinema ever. After these very dry couple of years. So for Hollywood. So PVR, I know, should be very happy. So should we book my show. I have one last question before we will do the question answer. My last question for each one of you is, sorry? My last question is that there are trailers which come and we get very excited. And then there are trailers which come which we are very lukewarm towards. Name 3 films in the last, it's a post-pandemic world, films which have surprised you that you did not think they could do as well as they did, and you thought they will do very well and they did not do well. So this is a question for all 3 of you.
Okay, so I will start with a movie which really surprised in terms of the box office in India was Evil Dead Rise. So it was kind of a sleeper hit for us. Did very well in India.
And it will really help if you can just say approximately X amount of business. It's public knowledge, so you don't need to say exact, but...
See, I don't remember the number.
About 38 crores, 38 crores.
Yeah, yeah. And the movie which obviously kind of fell way below expectations was the second part of Joker, Polyothu.
Yeah, but I think that was a worldwide thing. So, yep, something which surprised us genuinely, and I think for exhibitors it worked out well, was a film which we released 1 week prior to the Big 3 weekend, and we were not hoping that it will do that well. It ends with us. That's a genre. It's a drama, which that kind of films do typically 1 or 2 crores in India. That's like the maximum. The biggest in that romantic film genre would have been like 5 crores. But this film went on to do 15 crores, which obviously can't compare to a Spider-Man and all that, but within the genre which nobody believed in, it did really, really well in our market. And I think from exhibitors also, it was a very weak period because it was releasing 1 week prior to August 15th, which is the Independence Day weekend, and where 3 big films, 3 Bollywood films were fighting apart from all the southern films. So it was a very weak period, and this came in, and obviously exhibitors supported us a lot, and it did very well for everyone, not only us, but for all the exhibitors also. And the film which didn't do well, I think personally, which I felt was Bullet Train, which had got released in a couple of years ago, which had a fantastic star cast. I don't know how many of you have seen it. We thought it's a fantastic film, and great, yeah, thank you. I think few people in this audience, and if you've not seen it, do watch it on streaming. I'm not plugging in streaming here, but yeah, it's a great film which sadly got missed out in the theaters. Great action.
Yeah, so I would say that earlier this year we had a surprise in terms of relative surprise in terms of Nosferatu, directed by a very art house director whose earlier films were never released in India. It had a very decent kind of run and surprised with fans. The other thing I think obviously
Outside of business?
so that would be around about in the 5 to 7 range. But relatively, you have to see that none of his films have earlier released even in India. So from that perspective, it's kind of done very well. I think the other film that would have really kind of ended up surprising. Just at the start of the pandemic, we had not even come through, but there was House of Gucci, which we kind of like really worked well. And of course, in terms of actually, you would not believe this, but Oppenheimer, the level to which it performed for a 3-hour kind of a film, which is a completely talky film, something a genre that typically does not do well in India, ended up being Universal's highest grossing film ever. That's a real. I mean, it's not that it's surprised, but the degree to which it's surprised, and that's like what works even bigger. That's the answer to it. And I think one other film that, like, just like Bullet Train, we had a film last year which we thought should have done much better. It did decently well, but I thought should have done better, was Fall Guy. Excellent film. I think if you've seen it, it had all the elements. It had stars, it had action, romance, entertainment, but somehow I think it didn't end up doing justice to that in terms of numbers.
Just to add to that, I think what surprised me from a different studio perspective, apart from Oppenheimer, was Barbie. I think Barbie did huge numbers, which honestly I was personally surprised. So that again was like some wonderful numbers in India. Again, a genre which typically doesn't do that great, but yeah, it was fantastic. Oppenheimer, yeah. That again I was talking about. That was the phenomenon which a theater can do. Streaming is rare, but yeah, that was a phenomenon which everyone wanted to be part. I think that got benefited, everywhere in the world.
Cool. So in a nutshell, I think when we started, when we sat to discuss this topic, one of the worrying things which goes around, and usually it is all hyped up, is that Hollywood used to be 15%, now it is down to 8%, 9%, etc. I don't think it's all that bad, because if you look at numbers outside India, so if you look at, for example, Korea, between a 2019 to 2024, if I compare, the Hollywood percentages have gone to 46 to 35%. In France has gone down from 55 to 35. In Thailand, from a 40% to 30%. In China, from 35 to 15%. In Japan is 55 to 25%. I think generally speaking, it is because of lack of product which has come in because of various strikes, notwithstanding the fact that the local productions in these countries have been exceptionally well, because the local industry is producing films which are doing better and better. Same applies for us, whether it is a Pushpa which comes from South or a RRR which comes from South. Earlier you never used to have these numbers. You never used to have a Gadar 2 number or a Pathan number or a Jawan number or a Stree number or a Chhawa number, right? So at the end of the day, for the film value chain to survive in a healthy manner, the fact that a South film is doing well, that a Malayalam industry had the biggest year of their existence last year, Bollywood has been down, Hindi cinema has been down. Generally speaking, I think we are still better off as compared to other countries. And for 2025-26, I think we will do better than what we have done. So it does matter everywhere. Hollywood does matter. Actually, for Hollywood to matter in its existence, the international cinema audiences have been contributing more and more to the overall global box office business.
Yeah, sorry, if you've done, just to add to what I think Sanjay was telling just before we met is what, and I'm sure a lot of people might not know about this, that Hollywood as an industry has been in India since 100 years. And the one thing which Hollywood has done always is it's been consistent. Like Columbia Pictures has been in India since 100 years, much before any one of us was born. So it has been consistent. Maybe at one point in time it was 5%, at one point in time it was 12%, maybe last year it was 8%, this year it should be 12-13%, but it's been consistently delivering. It has also ensured that the youth, which is such an important part, have been consistently coming to the cinemas, because nothing can beat a Spider-Man Avengers, which most of us are born with. Spider-Man is the first superhero more for everyone. So to come to the theaters, or Superman, everyone I'm sure is excited about this new version of Superman. So I think that is very relevant, that youth are coming because, a lot of youth are coming because of Hollywood. So the consistency since 100 years in India, I think that is still continuing, and that will continue for the next 100 years. There's absolutely no doubt.
I still think we need to attract people like us also. So good news for PVR, good news for Book My Show. Next 2 years are rocking, and hopefully after that. With that, in case there are any questions, we will take with the panel. And
so, sorry, I will say that if it would have released now, Could have done more business because of the international marketing that we make like existing market.
No, in fact, to be honest, that was a big part of why it did well even that point in time. Because obviously right now the PR around it is at a peak, but I'm not sure whether it's helping Blake Lively. Unlike when it got released, because there was a film, gigantic film called Deadpool out there, and Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively being out there a lot, it definitely helped It Ends With Us. You know, in terms of the positive PR. Obviously, there was a little bit of controversy around Blake Lively that time also. But the controversy around it now, you never know. It might be in a negative way, and people might say, no, we don't want to watch It Ends With Us. So for me, I think personally, it was perfect timing. Again, the timing of, like I was mentioning earlier, coming 1 week prior to these 3 gigantic films and getting the space to ourselves, it worked. You know, it worked beautifully. Again, we had one more film called Venom, which had come pre-Diwali. Again, 1 week pre-Diwali, which we were quite worried because we knew when Bhool Bhulaiya and Singham comes in, we'll be in trouble. But that 1 week was so huge for us, so it was perfect. So to answer your question, I think that was perfect timing for us at that point in time.
Kamal, any questions?
No, I think, firstly, fantastic session. Thanks to your moderation. Nice cut to callers 35 plus.
36. 36.
Not been 36. We've not been in 30s for a very long time.
They
So
don't-
feeling suddenly
They don't know the
quite
inside
young.
you.
But very nice session, and I think very it's reassuring that studio partners are paying so much of effort and investing so much effort, giving so much of thought to marketing, because that's been like a sticky point, especially for the smaller mid-range films. The bigger films have their own built-in audience. They attract youth and all sorts of all segments of audiences. But the mid and the small independent, especially that category of films, it's reassuring that you guys are giving it so much of thought and putting it through there. Very good session. Really, thank you.
Thank you.
I was just going to say thank you.
I've got gifts for you.
Yeah, there's Warner merchandise for everyone, guys.
Hi, my name is Shubhro. So I'm a big DC Marvel fan as well. So I'm really waiting for Superman, the next. Even the Super Dog is there in the film, I guess.
Crypto, yeah.
Yeah. I had been a film student. One of my films has been produced by Warner Bros. India. And I've been watching international films throughout, Hindi films, regional films, Hindi, French, Iranian, from every spectre of the world. There was a time when Hindi film industry and Hollywood studios were were coming in sync, and they were conglomerating with each other, collaborating with each other. Why isn't that that step is not getting forward anymore?
Do you mean Hollywood studios making Hindi films? Is that your question? I think Shawnee will. I'll just kind of give you very briefly my answer. So as Warner Brothers, we are currently, along with the Universal films, we are releasing about 40 films a year. And as far as Bollywood films or Indian films are concerned, if there is a right proposition that comes, it might just happen.
Yeah, so the partnership or the collaboration is happening in multiple levels. One level, which I'll come to probably at the end, is what probably you are referring to, is that whether Hollywood studios are making local films. I'll come to that at the end, but a lot of collaboration is happening apart from that. A prime example is Prime Focus, and how they are, a lot of tech, a lot of post-production happens for most Hollywood films because of Prime Focus. And when we see at the end credits of most the Supermans and Avengers and all, we see a lot of Indian names. So that's great. And even they have got into production, as you might know, with DNEG. They have, in fact, one of our films, Garfield, was produced alongside Prime Focus.
But isn't it mostly to do with post-production?
No, that I'm coming to that. No, they have in fact produced. They have produced as a financing partner. They have produced and they're getting into a lot of other Hollywood productions. This is the reverse to what probably you were asking, but we are doing that. The second question, the second part to it is there are a lot of big films, including one which I don't want to name, but which Prime Focus is making. They are talking to studios on that. Super big films where the idea, and I really feel that it's time for that. There's an Indian subject which has to be taken to the world, and that's the strength of a Hollywood studio. Why should somebody come to a Hollywood studio? Because nobody else can do that. Because we are there in 150 countries. We have got the best marketing teams. We've got the best distribution teams. So as an Indian subject, to take it to the world, I think that's what the chatter is happening. That's what a lot of stuff is happening, which we can't talk about right now. But yes, so in the next year or so, you will hear at least about 2 films which I am aware of, which should come out there. The third part, which I think you started off the question with that, it's been happening. It's at one point, that Disney was quite prominent. At one point, Fox was prominent. Sony has been here and there. Right now with the Paramount, Disney, Jio thing happening, obviously it's Paramount and Disney coming together, but Jio, they all are making Hindi films. The thing is that when there is a consistency which comes in this market, and this is my personal opinion, this is not Sony's opinion, this is a personal opinion, when there's a consistency which studios see that it is a market which is delivering consistently, like I was talking sometime earlier, that Hollywood, how it has been consistent. I'm not saying every film is a hit, but there's a consistency. 1 of 2 films does work. When there's a consistency comes in, then I think will be a time when everyone takes notice, okay, this is a market. Because it's a market which can't be ignored. We know it's got the largest population in the world. It's got a great cinema going population. To something what Sunil was saying, one of the things which happened in COVID was in Asia specifically, a lot of focus has gone on making local films because people have started connecting to the local films, which was always happening in India. But now it started happening in China, Japan, South Korea. So there's a lot of focus which is going in, and because of that, even studios have started taking notice, and there's a lot of budgets now being allocated just to make local films. So I think that will help us also, because earlier it was, okay, if there's an exciting proposition, then we go, then we get. But when there is a focus, and when hopefully the writing becomes better, the kind of films which comes out becomes better from our market, then I think eventually, and it's happening, again, it's happening, and I'm sure it's looking positive, it's looking much positive than what it was earlier. So it will happen.
I'm sure that probably positioning and placing would help a lot.
Sure.
So, make sure the consistency is there.
Yeah, I think that consistency is very important, and I think now everyone, not only Hollywood, but even the writers, as we see in Bollywood and in South, have gone back to the drawing board and trying to come back with films which at least they are sure that will be appreciated by the audiences, and that's very important. Once that happens, then it's a market which none of the studios can ignore. Thank you. Thanks everyone.